Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Has anyone heard of this book before? Love and Respect?
Yes.
Yes? Some people. It's a very good, insightful book, and I think it's beneficial really for all married couples at any stage. I think a lot of it is things that maybe we have observed ourselves. Some things maybe are clear and obvious, but some things maybe we haven't really made the connection to understand the reasons why we see the things that we're seeing in each other as spouses, to try to understand one another better. As Mira was saying, like, I'm going to cover kind of an overview of the book. Of course, I can't go into all the details, but I'm going to give like an introduction of the main premise of the book and give an overview. But then for anyone who would like to go deeper and to learn more and to study more about the book, there's going to be an optional study group that's going to meet every 2 weeks online for people who want to participate. You'll be asked to watch some material and then come and discuss. And I think Bob is going to discuss it in more detail at the end. But just keep that in mind, that today we're going to be trying just to give an overview of everything that's discussed in the book. But there'll be more opportunities to dig deeper into the details for those who are interested. Okay. So, one of the main premises to understand about this is that love and respect are two different things. And even though, of course, there are differences between individuals, not everyone is exactly the same. But generally speaking, women tend to desire love, and men tend to desire respect. And I'm going to speak about what is the differences between these two things. And again, I say this generally because it's not to say that men don't want love and women don't want respect. But the way that we feel loved is different depending on, generally, if you're a man or woman, we tend to feel loved in a different way. Okay? So love and respect are distinct things, and we see this in Ephesians 5, verse 33, where St. Paul, after speaking about the relationships among the family and between the husband and the wife, he says, "Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband." Okay? Sometimes we use the word love as a generic word when we say, oh, we should love one another. Okay? But the way that we love one another is very much unique and specific to each person. Sometimes one of the spouses could be doing very, as much as they can to show love, to demonstrate self-sacrifice, to give of themselves, to give of their time, to think about the needs of the other person, while at the same time, the other spouse is not feeling it, doesn't realize that this is happening. We speak about this when we speak about the 5 love languages and how everybody has a specific love language. And if I'm showing love to my spouse in a language different than they are expecting it or they are wanting it, then despite all of my efforts and my good intentions, maybe my spouse is not seeing or experiencing the love that I'm trying to show them. Okay? The same is true here. Okay? Each one of us, by default, tends to want to show love to another in the same way that we would receive it ourselves. But that might not always be the way that my spouse wants to experience it. Okay? So when we speak about love, we need to understand the differences between each other, and specifically here, the differences between men and women and how each one experiences love. Okay? Why is it that women primarily need love? Okay, so love is central to the woman's sense of security. A woman experiences love not just as affection, but as a kind of security about the relationship itself. Okay? And so she might ask questions like, am I valued? Like, does he value me? Does he see me as valuable? Does he cherish me? Do I matter to him emotionally? What kind of emotions exist inside him toward me? Is he prioritizing me? And because women tend to be primarily relational, more than men, they very much care about the status of this relationship. They care about the feelings between each other in the relationship. Okay, so maybe the man could be doing many, many things, like let's say for the home, for the family, even for her. But if she feels that he is emotionally distant from her, then despite all of his efforts to serve her and to do good to her, she may not feel it. The thing she's looking for maybe is a little different. Okay, this is why oftentimes when the woman feels kind of some kind of disconnect in the relationship or some distress related to the relationship, she might say things like, he doesn't care, he's emotionally distant, or I feel alone, he doesn't listen, he doesn't understand me. All of these are things related to the status of the relationship itself. And because the woman is very relational, not only with her husband, but also with her friends and other women, that there's very much an emphasis on the status of the relationship in terms of the affection and the feelings that exist between the two people. So what she is looking for is for him to be emotionally attentive to her, caring about how she feels, asking her about her emotions, expressing his own emotions to her. This is one of the ways that she feels connected to him, because when he expresses his emotions, she feels like this is an intimate relationship, like we are being vulnerable with one another, we are sharing our emotions for one another. This makes her feel connected to him. Oftentimes, like in counseling situations, wives will complain, about their husbands in terms of a lack of love, right? Saying, I don't feel loved. And oftentimes when the husband hears this, he's shocked. Like, what do you mean you don't feel loved? And he can go through a list of things that he does to try to express how is it that he is loving her, but she doesn't experience it. She doesn't notice it. She doesn't feel it. And he feels maybe underappreciated, or it's like you're not paying attention to any of the things I'm doing, right? Well, at the same time, what she's looking for maybe is different than what he is offering. Okay, why is this a command to the man, right? When he says love your wife, why is it a command? Because the man tends to be less emotionally connected in general than the woman, right? The expressing emotions and this emotional connection is not as much a priority for the man by nature, right? So when God is coming and saying what is necessary for a successful and harmonious marital relationship, well, we have to understand each other's differences. We have to understand each other's needs. And I have to be able to kind of step outside of my comfort to express love to the other person in the way that they receive it. Okay? So he is telling men, okay, your wives are different than you. What is it that she needs? She needs to feel emotionally connected to you. You need to be able to express like your love to her in a way that she can comprehend and understand. Okay? Any questions about this so far? Any comments you want to make? Okay. The second is the man. Okay? Why is it that man's primary need is respect? Okay? Respect is central to a man's sense of worth. Okay? And whereas the woman's identity often is around this relational connection, a man's identity centers around his own personal worth, his accomplishments, his competence, his contribution. How is it that he sees himself, and how is it that other people see him? Okay? This is why for a man, for instance, so much of his identity is tied up with his career. What is it he is doing? One of the first things when a man meets another man is he'll ask him, what do you do for a living? Right? That's something like primary in the mind of a man, right? Because the way that we interact with each other has so much to do with our accomplishments, has to do with our expertise, has to do with our whether we are adequate or not in order to accomplish certain things. And whether he realizes or not, this is a big part of who he is. So for him, okay, the question is, do I matter? Am I trusted? Am I capable? Do you believe in me? Do you value who I am, not just what I provide? None of these things are related to their emotions, by the way. This has to do with him seeing that his wife respects him as a person. I respect what you've accomplished. I respect what you do for the home. I respect how you are a protector. I respect how you provide for us the things that we need. This is what makes a man feel loved, right? Is this respect. I trust your opinion. One of the things that can cause tension in a relationship is if the man always feels like his wife is second guessing everything that he says. Why? Because he wants to feel that I am trusted to make good decisions. And if you're second guessing the things that I am saying, right, beyond just like giving input, of course, there should be discussion and input in a marriage. But sometimes the man might feel like it goes beyond just kind of giving input and actually questioning competency. And when that begins to happen, the man feels threatened, he feels not loved. Okay? It's interesting actually because, and he talks about it in the book, he says when he asks men generally, does your wife love you? All of the men say yes. My wife loves me. Okay? But when they ask, does your wife like you? Most men say no. Say, no, my wife does not like me. Does your wife respect you? No, she doesn't. Why? Why does he get that impression? He gets that impression because every time he receives some kind of criticism from her, it's sending a message to him, even if it's not intended, right? Like for instance, it could be about something outside of him. Like let's say the man is working on some project in the house, trying to build something, install something, fix something, and she comes and she sees this and she says, "Oh, why didn't you do it this way? You know, why did it take you so long?" Whatever comment about the thing, he associates himself with the project itself. And so he says, if she is criticizing the work that I've done, then that means she's criticizing me, and that means she sees me, it's like belittling me, right? And that's the way he gauges whether his wife loves him, right? Is whether she trusts him to contribute and accomplish and be competent, okay? Very different, right? Very different than what we just said about the woman. And this is often why there is a disconnect between the way that the man experiences love and the way the woman experiences love, and why they don't necessarily understand each other. And even despite their best efforts to try to bring harmony into their relationships, they don't understand the trigger points that are causing the other person to be upset. Okay? Men tend to believe their wives do love them emotionally, but they are very affected by these things. They're affected by tone of voice, right? What is the tone of her voice when she's talking to me? Her facial expressions, right? Maybe her words are saying, "Oh, you did a great job," but her facial expressions are saying, maybe we should have hired somebody to do this. Sarcasm, public criticism. If you criticize your husband in public, in front of other people, this makes the man feel small, makes him feel like you don't respect him. Repeated correction. Right? Like when you keep correcting him over and over and over about the same thing. Again, it's kind of like the message being sent is, I don't trust you to be able to do this on your own. I have to keep reminding you, I have to keep telling you, right? And over time, it makes the man feel like he's not liked or respected. Okay? Any questions about this? Okay. So love without respect does not feel loving to a man. The wife, she might serve him faithfully, she might care for the home, she might express affection, she might even say, "I love you," right? But unless he feels from her that she respects him for who he is, she admires him, right, for who he is, then he's going to always feel unfulfilled, okay? And again, this can come through criticism, through body language, and so on, okay? The woman, on the other hand, right? Maybe she can be respected and treated well, right? But at the same time, she still doesn't feel loved, right? Maybe the husband is providing financially. Maybe the husband is faithful. Maybe he is doing all he can to avoid conflict. Maybe he is fulfilling all his responsibilities and serving her and serving the house. He's fulfilling all the chores. He's doing all the things, okay? But in her mind, there isn't an emotional connection between the two of them. So it doesn't matter what he does. So as the man is there trying to serve the family, and in his own mind, he's sacrificing his time, he's being kind of clever and insightful in the way he's researched things, and trying to fix things, and trying to improve things, and sacrificing of his time to wake up early in the morning, and to go to work, and to serve the family, and so on. After he's done all of this, if she then says something to him that feels like disrespect, then he's going to be confused by it. He's going to feel like, look, you're not appreciating all the things that I'm doing. But what she is really looking for is vulnerability and emotional connection. So even though you are providing all of those things, if you are not then being emotionally vulnerable with your wife, then I'm not saying that those things don't make a difference or don't matter, but primarily what she is looking for is that relational and emotional connection. And so he's going to think, well, she doesn't care, she's going to think I don't matter to him, and so on. So this is a tragic misalignment, okay? And because there is this misalignment, there tends to become a cycle. The book calls it the crazy cycle, okay? This cycle starts to develop because one person is not giving the other what they need, and that causes the other person, in their anger or in their sadness or in their disconnection, to not give the other person what they need. they start to build off of each other in a negative, in a negative pattern, right? In this cycle. So when a woman feels unloved, she tends to react in ways that feel disrespectful to the man, right? And when a man feels disrespected, he tends to react in ways that feel unloving. And this is why, like, the relationship gets stuck in this pattern that you feel like you cannot escape from it. And it builds contempt, it builds resentment, it builds distance, it builds, again, the woman feeling unloved and the man feeling disrespected. And even though none of this is intentional, right? None of this it's not intended that the man hates his wife or the wife hates her husband, okay? But it is the beginning of this crazy cycle. Her pain triggers his pain, and his pain triggers her pain. Both people feel misunderstood. At the same time, they are both feel misunderstood. They feel justified. Each person is pointing to the other and saying, the problem is he is not emotionally available to me, or he is saying the problem is no, she's not respecting me. She's not accepting what I'm offering her, and she's dismissing all the things that I'm doing. So both of them are wounded. Both of them blame the other person. Both of them don't necessarily understand what is the source of this, and they just feel like they are stuck in this pattern that keeps escalating and getting worse and worse and worse. Okay, so this is the problem. Okay, so what is the solution? Okay, the solution is not simply like better techniques or better communication, right? The solution is, and this requires a lot of humility, right? But the solution is to start behaving the way that your spouse wants you to, even before they begin treating you in the way that you want them to. Because the only way to break the cycle is for someone to stop reacting to the other, right? Like, instead of me reacting to my spouse, okay, she said something to me that bothered me, and so in that case, I'm going to kind of make a snide comment, or I'm going to be upset, or I'm going to respond in a certain way, or be more emotionally distant. Instead, accept the idea that in a committed marriage relationship, we are called to serve and love one another unconditionally. Unconditionally means it is not based on how I'm being treated. So to break the cycle, one person has to start treating the other person the way that they want to be treated, and with real, genuine love, regardless of how themselves are being treated. But the first step of this is to understand what it is, because unless we understand what it is, unless we realize, right, that there is this disparity between the two, and the way they are expecting to be loved, there's the man or the woman are not going to know how to behave. They're not going to know what is it that's lacking. People can come to the point where there's just like a big question mark, and almost they give up. They give up because they feel like, I've tried everything. I don't understand him, or I don't understand her, and I don't know what to do. And each person retreats into their own kind of world, and they interact with each other just transactionally, like we interact only when something needs to be done, right? But we are not really vulnerable to each other, or we're not really close to one another. Okay, so the only solution is to begin this process of learning about each other, and then committing to serving the other person in the way that they need, regardless of how I happen to be feeling at the time. And this is not easy, right? And because it's not easy, a lot of marriages continue to struggle with this, right? Because it's calling you to serve the other person regardless of how they are serving you, to give to the other person regardless of how you're receiving. And behind this is also the idea that I have to believe that my spouse has good intentions. Maybe they are not treating me the way I would like, but it's not because they hate me. It's not because they don't like me. It's because maybe they don't realize what I need. They don't know what I need. They don't know how to treat me or to behave toward me. Okay? So this is the crazy cycle. Okay? The crazy cycle is that without love, she reacts without respect, and without respect, he reacts without love. Okay? And the cycle feeds itself regardless of who started it. Okay? It gives this example of, while they were engaged, like, she made her husband this gift, and he thanked her for the gift, right? But he did it without any emotional enthusiasm. Like, he wasn't emotionally excited about the gift. She gave it to him, he accepted it, he said thank you, but he wasn't emotionally excited about the gift. So she interpreted the fact that he was not excited about the gift as a lack of love, like a lack of appreciation. Like, you didn't care about the gift that I made you, you didn't care that I made it for you, or anything like that. So what is she complaining about? She is complaining about a lack of emotion in him. But in his mind, it's like, well, I really do like it. And I'm thankful for it and thank you for making it. Right? The fact that I am not feeling just emotionally charged about it or overly enthusiastic emotionally about it, this is maybe his nature. Right? Like this is his nature. Maybe he doesn't get emotionally excited about a lot of things. His way is more logical, right? In the way he's thinking. So both people were sincere. He really did like the gift, but she didn't feel that. She didn't experience that. Okay? And so again, it kind of became a cycle. Yeah.
So in this particular example, can you elaborate on how to react?
So we cannot we cannot pretend to be what we're not. You know. So if I am not just the type of person who becomes very emotionally reactive about certain things, I shouldn't pretend to be because it's going to be fake, right? But I can try to, as much as I can, use words and emphasize the amount at which I'm very thankful for the gift. Like, I'm so thankful that you spent the time to make this for me, that this is exactly what I wanted. Like, this is going to be such a great gift for me and to use and such and such and such. Like, instead of just being like, thank you, and that's it. Just go on, like, move on to the next thing. Like, if a person spent, let's say, hours trying to make a gift, then, try to express your joy and your joy in the amount of time that they spent and committed to you to make it. Like, identify the love that went into it, even if it's not super bubbly, emotional, kind of tearful joy that maybe someone who's very emotional would express. At the same time, the woman, right? She also needs to understand her husband and understand that the way he expresses joy, the way he expresses appreciation, is maybe more subdued than the way that maybe she does, or maybe that her friends would, for instance. And that's a big part of us trying to understand one another, right? We're not able to change one another, but we can try to understand one another and to provide kind of as much as possible what we need for each other. Okay? There is a fear behind this, yes.
I was going to give an example.
Sure.
My mom would tell me, I spent 8 hours. 8 hours.
Switch.
My mom would say, I spent 8 hours cooking and preparing this meal. Don't eat it in 5 minutes. So that's what you're saying. Spend a little bit of time, a little bit proportional to the amount of time and effort and love that went into it to give back.
Yes. Like, express appreciation in a way that the person would understand.
Don't just,
Yeah.
you're too busy.
But maybe if it tastes so good, you want to eat it very quickly.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
It's great, how did you make it, so nice, whatever.
Yeah.
You're not just,
Okay.
I eat fast, but what is?
Huh? You eat fast. Yeah. Okay. There is fears that underlie this cycle when people are struggling in this cycle. Okay. Her fear is to be emotionally disconnected from her husband. And as she remains in the cycle, she feels more and more emotionally disconnected. And maybe every time she tries to express that she's emotionally disconnected, he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand, why are you emotionally disconnected? What do you want me to do to be more emotionally connected? And then she might say things like, well, just come and talk to me more. Or come and express to me, like, talk to me about what happened in your day. Talk to me about, like, ask me about what happened in my day. Like, express emotion, care about the things. And sometimes the man doesn't fully understand what that means, okay? She's afraid of being insignificant to him, right? She's just one more thing on his schedule, one more thing in his day. She's afraid of loving him more than he loves her. Because again, emotional connection is a huge part of how the woman processes the relationship. On the other hand, his fear is, again, she doesn't like me. I wake up, I go to sleep, she doesn't like me. She doesn't respect me. She doesn't think that I'm adequate. She doesn't think that the things that I do or the ideas that I have are good. she's always criticizing them, right? That's his fear. And he's feeling like a failure. And if he feels like a man feels that he is a failure, he's going to avoid the things that make him feel like a failure, right? So if his wife is always making him feel like a failure, he's going to want to avoid his wife. And when he avoids her, that's going to be even more emotional disconnection, more isolation, and her husband his wife is going to feel even more separated from him, and that's why it's a cycle, right? So that's something like very very important. Okay. Sometimes we argue about certain issues, but the issues have nothing to do with the real problem. The problem is an underlying problem, right, related to this, and we don't see it. One of the things that happens maybe when people get into an argument is because they like get triggered by something, and they begin to want to bring into it all the things that have ever happened in the past that are remotely related to the thing that just happened. Okay? And the reason this is happening is because the underlying issue has never really been resolved. It's never really been discovered, never really been addressed, never really been addressed in a satisfying way to try to fix it or to try to resolve it. And so it keeps coming up again and again, but coming up in these small things. Like a lot of people will come and they say, oh, well, this is a really silly argument. Okay? Yeah, maybe it is a silly argument. Like when you're arguing about a towel, you're arguing about the air conditioner, you're arguing about the car, you're arguing about something, and maybe the thing itself is very small and significant. But beneath it, there is a deeper issue that keeps coming up again and again, which is that we don't understand each other. We don't understand where we're coming from, right? I don't understand, your, emotions toward it, and you don't understand my logic toward it. You don't understand like what my idea is and why I think we should do it, and I don't understand how you feel uncomfortable about it. And so we go back and forth, and so there's all these issues but it's not really the problem. The problem is underlying deeper than this. Okay. Also, there's a big difference in communication. Women also tend to communicate through relational meaning, whereas men tend to communicate functional intent. Meaning, women speak about their emotions, their relationships, right? They care a lot about the status of their relationships. Men care more about fixing a problem. They care more about what is the most practical thing to be done, apart from the emotions. Okay? So women, when they're having a conversation, they are listening for like the emotional subtext of the conversation. How does he feel when he's speaking to me? Not just what is he saying. The man is focusing more on the words that are being said. The woman is focusing more on what are his feelings that are motivating the words. So maybe he is saying everything according to him that's right, that should be said, but she's unsatisfied. Why? Because you're not saying them with any kind of feeling. You're not expressing emotion to me. You are just expressing information. You're processing information. Okay. So here, like, he gives another example. So he says in this example, the wife goes to her husband and she says to him, "I have nothing to wear." Okay. So what does she mean? She means nothing feels right. Maybe I don't like the way that I look in any of the clothes that I have. Nothing makes me feel good. Nothing expresses how I want to express myself. These are the emotions that she's expressing when she says, "I have nothing to wear." The man understands this as a literal statement. And he looks in the closet and says, "Look, we have a lot of things to wear." Okay? So it's again, he's looking at it very logically. That's not what she was trying to express, but that's what he heard. And so when his response is, "Look, you have a lot of clothes," right? Or maybe he even makes a remark or says, "Do you know how much money you spent on clothes? In the last 6 months or whatever, and then you come back and you tell me that you don't have anything to wear?" Like if this was already like a point of conflict between them before. So again, she doesn't feel like he understands what she's feeling because she didn't communicate it in a way that he really could understand it. He didn't read between the lines to understand what she was seeing, but there was some emotion behind her statement. Whereas his response, there was no emotion there. It was just an analytical observation of the clothes in the closet and responding that way. Okay? So that's the crazy cycle. Then he speaks about what's called the energizing cycle. Yes?
I'm so sorry. If a man is such a problem solver and is so logical, Why are they offended when you ask, why did you do it that way? They should answer and say, I did it because A, B, C. If I did it the other way, it would have been D, E, F. Those are the pros and those are the cons. If they are truly a problem solver, they wouldn't be so offended.
Now they are problem solvers, and I think they should. They should respond with a reasoning as to why they did it. But in the end, there's always going to be differences of opinion on what was the best way to be done. And so,
but it should be, you're not, it shouldn't make them feel less of a man just because you ask them.
No, if you ask just a question and say, why did you do it this way? There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes, as I said, the tone or the body language implies a kind of a criticism beyond just a simple question. I think most men enjoy explaining why they chose to do something when they feel that like a sense of admiration for what they've done. So for instance, if a man, it's like he works very, very much to do some project in the house, and his wife comes in awe. It's like, wow, you did such a great job. Can you explain to me what you did and why you did it this way? He would be more than happy to explain and spend much more time even that she would want to hear why is it he did it the way that he did it. But if instead her body language was like, why did you do it that way? Then no, he's not going to want. He's going to become defensive, right? He's going to become defensive because what you're actually saying is you don't like the way that I did it. There's a better way. And so he's going to feel, even if the words are the same, he's going to feel whether this is a positive question, like you're asking because you admire it and you want to understand it, or whether you're criticizing it, right? And so the tone matters very much. Okay. So he goes on then to the energizing cycle, which is the reverse. So he says if the crazy cycle is that each person is kind of feeding off the negative statements and the negative emotions of the other, the energizing cycle is the opposite. When one person decides to break the cycle, they say, okay, you know what, I'm going to start reacting in a positive way, regardless of how I feel. This is then going to prompt the other person to do the same. And then that will prompt them to do the same. So it's going to now become a positive cycle, breaking the cycle with obedience. Obedience is what? Obedience to God. This isn't like obedience to each other. This is obedience to God, because in the end, marriage was ordained by God, and He told us, just like it said in Ephesians 5:33, that a man should love his wife and that the wife should respect her husband. This is a command. This is saying if for marriage to be successful, for marriage to thrive, this is what needs to happen, and these things are unconditional. Love is not conditional on respect, and respect is not conditional on love. Okay, so this is the way to break the cycle. We have to start taking actions based on principle and not based on how we're feeling, right? So if I take an action based on principle, that principle, of course, is a godly one. Meaning, I, as a servant of God, as a believer in God, as a faithful person, I'm wanting to serve the people around me, and I serve the people around me, including my husband or wife, regardless of how I feel like I'm being treated. Okay? And over time, and this might take time, but over time, this can have a very positive impact on the relationship. He speaks about these two acronyms. One of them is regarding how a wife wants to be loved, and the other one about how a husband wants to be respected. A big part of the book goes into detail about each one of these letters of this acronym. So I'm not going to go into such detail about it, but I'm going to just address it at an overview level, and then this will be something for those who want to participate in the study group and watch more like videos about this that will be assigned, can delve deeper into it. The first thing, so the acronym for the wife is couple related to like relationship, like coupling together, okay? So the C represents closeness. Closeness means emotional presence more than solutions, right? We've all maybe heard the story of, like a woman comes home from work and she's very upset and she wants to talk to her husband about what is it that happened to her. And he immediately just starts spewing out, did you try this? Did you say this? Why didn't you do this? How about you try this? And she doesn't feel heard because he is just giving a lot of attempts to fix the problem, okay? Whereas closeness is about him wanting to she wants him to demonstrate emotional connection and that he feels what she feels, right? Empathy. She wants him to feel what she feels. She wants him to be engaged, like to make eye contact, to listen attentively, to give her undivided time, to initiate conversations about it and ask, so how are things going? How are you feeling today? Right? I'm caring about your emotions. I'm caring about the way that you feel. And this brings the couple together. This makes her feel like he is close to me. He is not emotionally distant. He is not just thinking about the things he has to do. He's not just thinking about his own day or the stressful things that happen in his day. He cares about my feelings, and he is feeling the same thing I'm feeling with me. This makes her feel happy. This makes her feel loved. The second is openness. Openness means that he is open with me. He wants to share his thoughts with me. He is not just kind of isolated, separating himself in his own little world. No, he wants to share his ideas, his thoughts, his own struggles at work, his own struggles with his family, his own struggles that he is going through, his own thought processes, his internal processes. Everything about him that goes on inside of him, he wants to express it. Because again, this is how women connect to one another, is by expressing their emotions and their thoughts to one another. She wants him to do the same. Now, again, maybe the man, this is not what he's used to. Maybe he tends to be more kind of to himself. He processes everything internally. He doesn't really express as much how he feels. Or some men think that it's wrong to have feelings. It's wrong to express sorrow or sadness or be emotionally vulnerable, right? But this is what she wants. She wants him to be emotionally vulnerable with her. And she doesn't just want information, right? She wants feelings. Like, not just to say, today I did 1, 2, 3. No, it's like, how did you feel as you did those things? How did you feel? Did you struggle as you were doing them? What obstacles and challenges did you have as you were doing them? Tell me about how you feel. Sharing worries, expressing uncertainty. Silence feels unsafe to the woman. Feels like, well, because you are not talking, you're not communicating, I don't know what's going on inside of you. And it makes me feel insecure. Okay? That's openness. Understanding means empathy, right? And trying to understand why the woman is feeling what she is feeling, right? They want to be heard. They want you to justify their feelings by saying things like, oh, that must have been so difficult for you to hear the person say that. That must have been very stressful. Like I'm empathizing with you. I'm with you in the conversation. I'm sharing with you the emotions that you're feeling. I'm understanding where you're coming from. Peacemaking, P. This is related to apologizing, right? Making peace. If the man feels like he has done something wrong, if he has offended his wife, if he feels like he said something or did something he shouldn't have done, to take the initiative and to go and to make peace and to initiate reconciliation. This is really true for both the man and the woman. But the idea that we are trying to restore emotional safety in the relationship. We want to bring the relationship back to a place of peace rather than stress. The longer that the relationship stays in a state of stress and there is disconnection between the two, the more painful it will be. And of course, this applies to both, but it tends to affect the woman more than the man, because she is the one who cares more about there being emotional peace in the relationship, and she wants to restore that peace. And so anything he can do to try to restore emotional peace when there's been a conflict in the relationship, it goes a long way to making her feel accepted, and to making her feel like he cares about the relationship, the emotional security that is there. L is loyalty. Choosing her consistently, meaning he prioritizes her. He prioritizes her needs. He prioritizes her desires. He wants to make her happy. He wants to make sure that she is satisfied and content. If he feels that there is something bothering her, he asks her about it. He wants to make sure there's nothing wrong. And he wants to make sure that he didn't do something wrong to bother her. Okay? This also includes defending her, caring about her safety, her protection, both physical protection and emotional protection, prioritizing the marriage, avoiding comparisons with other people, not making her to feel like he wants her to be more like such and such person in the way that she talks or the way that she dresses or the way she responds or anything about her, making her feel like, I appreciate you for who you are and I'm loyal and committed to you in our relationship regardless of what happens, right? This is loyalty. Esteem. Esteem is something that is communicated through our tone, through our tenderness, communicated through the words that I say, the gentleness of my responses, always making her feel like I appreciate her qualities. I really liked how you spent all of that effort to to cook the food. I really enjoyed how you decorated the house. I feel like you did such a great job, and you were very diligent in all, like, everything to try to make her feel like she's seen. The things she's doing is seen by him, and he appreciates it. He appreciates what she is doing. Okay? If he dismisses it, or if he ignores it, we've heard stories where, like, the woman will come and say, it's like, did you notice that I have a new outfit today? Did you notice that the house is clean today? Did you notice that the decorations that I put up today? Did you notice? Yeah. They're very nice. So this is that, right? She wants you to be attentive to what she's doing. Okay? 16. Yeah.
Keep raising your hand.
So you mentioned something on her loyalty, asking her about her day and ask her how she's feeling. So there are times when you ask what's wrong, and the answer is nothing. But you know something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
How do you approach those situations? Do you continue to pester so that you can eventually open up, so that the discussion can be had on whatever this is, or do you leave it alone?
So sometimes she's not ready to talk about it yet, and so maybe it's something that in time she would be more willing to talk about it. But I think it's still good to number one, express that you noticed. So I noticed that you're not feeling. Do you want to talk about it? And if she says no, maybe wait, maybe bring it up later again. Like, are you feeling better? Like, again, showing that you're thinking about it, that it's on your mind. You're not going to force her to talk about something if she doesn't want to talk about it, but you're giving her the option, and you're communicating, even if she never discusses it, but you're communicating, I notice you, I see you, I know what's going on, and that matters. Even if in the end she never talks about it, she gets over it, she doesn't really want to talk about it, it still says something about how you noticed what was happening with her. Yeah. Okay? The next one is for the men. The acronym is CHAIRS. I don't know why it's CHAIRS. It has nothing to do with a chair. But that's the acronym. Okay? The first one is conquest. And when you hear the word conquest, it might like bring to mind like domination. Okay? But that's not what it is. Okay? This is her appreciating his desire to work and achieve. To conquer means to succeed, to overcome a challenge, okay? And so this is why work, the idea of work, is very important to a man, and that's why men love to talk about their work, okay? They will love to talk with their wives about what it is that they've accomplished that day. Today there was this problem, and I solved it by doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And if he begins to feel like she's not really interested in hearing, or she doesn't really understand, or she doesn't ask any questions about what was that like, and what did you actually do, and what does that mean, and he's going to feel like she's not interested, right? He likes it when she asks questions because that gives him an opportunity to demonstrate that he has mastery over something, okay? It might seem silly, okay? But actually this is very important to a man, to feel like I have mastered something, I'm good at something, and I want to be recognized for it, not in a prideful way, but just in a way of like saying, like, my wife sees that I have worth, that I have value, that I'm competent, that I'm able to accomplish. Whether it be in the house, like in terms of what I'm doing around the house, or even in my own work. So when a wife expresses interest to know about the man's work, right? This is something he loves to talk about. And wives, you probably have heard your husband speak about his work to other men, right? Because this is what they like to discuss with each other. The work that they do. So this is conquest. Appreciate the effort that he puts in, not just the outcome. Sometimes, the man will try to accomplish something and they won't be able to, right? They won't be able to fix the toilet, they won't be able to fix the electricity, they won't be able to do something. Appreciate the effort that he put into trying to do it, right? Rather than just criticizing that the outcome was not what was desired. You know, it's like, you spent how many hours trying to do this, and in the end it still doesn't work? No, that is not going to go well. Okay? Instead, accept, appreciate, thank you so much for spending hours trying to fix this. I know it didn't work in the end, but I appreciate the effort you put into it. That's going to make a world of difference for him. Okay? Because he himself feels shame that he was not able to fix it, that he was not able to solve it. And when you come and you point that out, it ruins his day. Okay? That's conquest. Hierarchy is appreciating his desire to protect and to provide. Right? Again, there's differences between men and women. Men have a desire to protect. Men have this innate desire wanting to protect their family. And when he feels like you appreciate this and you are thankful for it and you recognize it, that you are trying to provide for us. You're working hard to give to us. You are protecting us, right? You're a provider. This makes him feel that you see all of his hard work, you know? And I know most women are working as well, but the connection that women have to their jobs is different than what men have to their jobs. By saying to him, I appreciate that you're waking up early and you're going to work and you're providing for us and you're making sacrifice and all this stuff, it's very important. Also, feeling like I feel safe when you're around, right? This makes him feel what? Like I'm able to offer protection. I'm able to offer a sense of security to my family because they trust me. And that's the key word, is trust. If I feel trusted, then I will be motivated to continue and to do more and more. But if I feel like I am not trusted, then I will be unmotivated, right, to work harder. I'll be unmotivated to protect. I'll be unmotivated to take initiative and try to fix something or to do something, because in the end I feel all I'm going to get is criticism, right? So this is respecting his sense of duty and encouraging it. A is authority. This is appreciating his desire to serve and to lead, right? Authority, again, is about trust. It's not about control, right? When I say the word authority, it's not domination, okay? It's leading, right? I've heard from many women that they want their husbands to lead, okay? But sometimes they don't realize that they are undermining his desire to lead because of their own comments, because of their own actions. So, for instance, if I see my husband is not doing something, immediately I'll just go do it myself. I know there's times where this has to happen, but give your husband the opportunity to take the lead and to do something. Like if you tell him, here are the needs, here's what I need. Give him the opportunity to take the lead. Give him the opportunity, and then express appreciation for the lead that he has taken, right? In something regarding the home or for yourself, making decisions, right? Trust his ability to make decisions. Tell him your input, of course. Tell him how you feel about it. Tell him what you think. Tell him what you would desire. And then, trust his decisions that he makes. And even if things don't turn out the best way possible, don't point out the failure, okay? And when you don't point out the failure, the man already feels like a failure, right? If he makes a decision that didn't work out, you don't have to point it out to him. When he feels that you are still supporting him, even though it was a failure, and even that you are appreciating the effort he put in, even though it was a failure, the next time he will be more willing to listen to your point of view, right? Because sometimes women feel frustrated. My husband is big-headed. He doesn't want to listen to me. He tells me he wants to take a decision. I tell him, no, I don't think this is going to work. He ignores me and he does it anyway, okay? And then it turns into a problem, especially if it doesn't work out. If you want your husband to be more willing to listen to you, continue to appreciate the effort that he does and don't criticize him when things go bad. Then the next time, he will be much more willing to listen to other points of view because he feels safe. He feels like I don't have to feel like I'm trying to prove myself. I'm not trying to prove myself to my wife. She already respects me. She already admires me. Let's just work together as a team and get it done. Rather than having this idea, it's like, well, no, I have to be the one to prove myself that my opinion is right and everything that I do is right so that I can be respected. Okay? I is insight, which is appreciating his desire to analyze and counsel. Because men tend to be very logical in the way they think, right? And less emotional, They like it when they are deferred to make decisions regarding like things that have to be researched. So for instance, if we need to research a vacation, we need to research a large purchase, we need to research buying a car, we have to research some technology that we want to buy, we have to analyze something, make some kind of analysis, right? Men enjoy doing this. Of course, not universally, but to a large extent, men enjoy doing this, and they want to feel like wives trust them. Go do the research and tell me, like, what did you find? Like, what do you think we should do? You know, trusting and deferring to his insight when it comes to these things, valuing his perspective, avoiding constant second guessing. Again, there's nothing wrong with giving your opinion. You have to do that. You have to give your input and your opinion. But in the end, if you cross a line from just asking questions and giving input to starting criticizing what he is choosing, then it can start to become a problem. Then he begins to feel again like this is a lack of trust. You're not trusting me to make a good job, to make a good decision. And as I said before, even if it doesn't end out perfectly, you have to understand that what is more important, okay? Is it really that the outcome is perfect? Is that the most important thing? Or is that there is harmony in your marriage, right? There's going to be times where the man's decision is not the best decision, right? Where there could have been a better decision, even a decision that you wanted to make that ended up not happening. But ask yourself, how much of the decisions are we making are so critical that, whether it's the outcome that happened or the outcome that would have happened, is it worth like putting the relationship in jeopardy, right? Obviously, there are some decisions that are extremely critical, right? And even if there's going to be offense between the two, like we have to choose the right thing. But most of the decisions we make are not critical. Most of the decisions we make are minor, are small things, right? Don't turn every small decision to be an argument, to be a fight. If your husband feels like he takes great pride in wanting to make decisions for the family, this is not just him being pig-headed. This is him wanting to serve the family and wanting to feel he is appreciated and respected for the service that he is doing, right? This is actually him saying, I want to serve you. I want to serve you in the way that comes naturally to me. And if you become an obstacle to that, if you begin to second guess everything he is doing, if you criticize what he's doing, then you are short-circuiting that natural process inside of him, and he's not going to want to do it again. He's not going to want to try again. He's going to say, well, you figure it out. Like, I don't want to participate, right? But again, if you make him feel appreciated, then that will not happen. Our relationship, this is you appreciating shoulder-to-shoulder friendship, meaning that he wants to do things with you. He wants you to be a companion to him. He wants you to do things together that you both enjoy doing, working side by side. He likes it when you come and express interest in what he is doing and even offering to work with him on it. It's not that the man just wants to work alone. He would be interested if somebody wants to come and help him. Like, if you express interest in what he is doing. And he's saying, come and let's enjoy our time together while we are doing something together, right? You're going to help him to accomplish it. And you're going to take his lead. So he's going to say, can you get me this? Can you do this? What do you think about this? This will be an opportunity for the two of you to spend time together. And he will feel like you are respecting and trusting him and enjoy spending time with him even as you are doing something constructive together. This is the relationship. The last one is sexuality. Appreciate his desire for sexual intimacy. I know this can be a whole topic by itself, and the book does go into a lot more detail about it, but sexual intimacy communicates acceptance. If it ever happens that he is like trying to pursue like sexual intimacy, and then for whatever reason you tell him no at that time because either busy or tired or for whatever reason, you have to be very careful the way you communicate it to him so it doesn't feel like it is a personal rejection. Because this is something that men feel. They will feel personally rejected. It isn't just about him, wanting to have sex and you said no. It's like a rejection of him, who he is. Because if you respected him, if you loved him, then you wouldn't say no in his mind. I'm not saying that there aren't reasons to say no. I'm just saying you have to be mindful of how he perceives what is it that you are saying. So for many men, like sex is the same as like affirmation of who he is, his desirability, and you wanting to be with him. So be careful, right? And understand that his desire for sexuality may be different than the woman, which tends to be more, again, related to emotional connection, but it's still important, and this rejection feels very personal, right? So make sure he understands the reasons why, and be gentle with the reasons why if you are not, wanting to pursue sexual intimacy like that. Okay, so these are the two acronyms. Again, it goes into much more detail in the book. The last part is called the rewarded cycle. Okay, the rewarded cycle focuses. This is the more focusing about the spiritual aspect of marriage. Okay, ultimately, these concepts of love and respect are about obedience to God. And in order for us to have successful marriages, this is what we have to remember. While improving our relationships is good, having peace in our relationships is good, being able to communicate well is good, avoiding conflict is good, all those things are great, and this is what we want to achieve. But ultimately, marriage is about obedience to God, right? We love and respect each other not just because it works, not just because it brings successful marriages, but because God has commanded us to do so, right? This is a command. The commandment of self-sacrifice. That when I choose to be married, I am saying I am choosing to sacrifice myself for this person. I'm not getting married because I'm seeking to get something from this person, as much as I am choosing to sacrifice myself for this person. And so the mentality is one of giving rather than one of receiving. If my mentality begins to change to be in terms of that of receiving only, then that's when we get into the crazy cycle. Because then my behavior toward you is dependent on your behavior toward me. You don't behave toward me the way I want, I'm not going to behave toward you the way that you want, and then this keeps us in this perpetual destructive pattern. Okay? But if instead my focus is on what is it that God is calling me to do as a wife, as a husband, right? And I do this unconditionally because my reward is not just the marriage's success. My reward comes from God. Okay? In Colossians 3:23 it says, "And whatever you do it heartily as to the Lord and not to men." Do it for God. Don't do it just for yourself. Don't do it just for your spouse. Marriage is sanctified. It is a holy institution. It is something created by God, and God has called us to live a certain way in it. It is not just about what brings success in the relationship. It's about what serves the Lord. Okay? 2 is loving and respecting when it is not deserved, right? There's no conditions based on how we treat one another. 3 is marriage is a test of faith and not fairness, right? Christian life is not about fairness. This isn't about fairness. This is about seeing the situation that God has put me in, and then doing the best I can to be faithful in the midst of that situation. There are going to be marriages that just because of the compatibility between the two people, they rarely ever have conflict. Maybe they're very similar. Maybe the situations are such that they both grew up, let's say, in very nurturing homes. They have very good self-awareness. They have very good communication skills. They communicate with one another, and everything is easy. They barely ever fight. There can exist such a marriage. There can also exist the complete opposite of that. People who grow up in very broken homes, people who grow up without good self-awareness or good communication skills or good coping skills, and they find themselves now trying to deal with the weaknesses of the other partner as well as their own, and they struggle in it, okay? That doesn't mean that the marriage is wrong. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't have gotten married. It means that each of us is put in the world with different circumstances in various areas. One person is born rich, one person is born poor, one person is born healthy, one person is born sick, one person is born with certain qualities that make it easy for them to succeed in life. Maybe they're charismatic, intelligent, and so on. Another person doesn't have those qualities. Each of us is put in the world with a set of circumstances. And some of those circumstances are beneficial and helpful, and some of those circumstances are challenging, right? If I find myself in a challenging marriage, that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with it. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me or with my spouse. It means that this is one of the challenges of my life that I need to be very deliberate and intentional in trying to address it, okay? And so marriage is a test of faith. Marriage is something that God is calling us to live holy in it, regardless of how easy it is or how hard it is. Just as He called us to live holy in our lives as single people before we got married, He calls us to be holy with our children. He calls us to be holy in our work. He calls us to be holy in all our relationships. And all of this maybe is difficult, and all of it can be a struggle. Some people have jobs that are extremely easy and nice and enjoyable. Other people have jobs that are miserable. We look at our situations as a whole, and we say, what is God calling me to be? God is calling me to be a faithful Christian. There are some things I have to carry across. There are some things that are easy. There are some things that other people struggle more than me. There's other things that I struggle more than them. And that's fine. That's fine. Right? Focus on, how do I please God in my relationship? How do I serve Him? My reward is going to come from God. My marriage is temporary. As much as we speak about the permanence of marriage, of course, but my marriage is only on the earth. Right? God is going to judge me and say, how faithful were you in your marriage? How faithful were you in your actions? How faithful were you in your thoughts? How faithful were you in your effort in order to serve your spouse? And this is why marriage is a path of salvation. When we speak about marriage as a path of salvation, because it is not easy, it is difficult. It is difficult, and it is an opportunity for us to grow, to learn how to love another person unconditionally. It is a test of faith. It is not that all marriages are equal in the sense that they're all easy or they're all hard. No, everyone is different. Everyone is unique. But we're called by God, and through the grace of God working in our relationships, to be sanctified and to grow and to heal and to become stronger and better than we were. 4 is the power of acting in faith, right? Loving and respecting each other as we try to do over time begins to transform us. This is why marriage is a path of salvation. Maybe what we are thinking of and we want the most is we want the quickest, easiest solution to harmony. The quickest, fastest way to just get to the point where we don't fight, we're always at peace, we always enjoy each other's presence, and this is what we want. But this isn't realistic, okay? This is the goal that we want to get to, but as we go toward that goal, God is wanting to work in us. He's wanting to transform us, to change us. For instance, He wants to soften our hearts. He wants us to learn patience. He wants us to learn forgiveness. He wants us to know how to be vulnerable and to lower our defenses. He wants us to know how to be obedient and to serve another person, even when we feel angry toward them, even when we feel like they are not appreciating me or loving me the way that I should be. Right? All of these are very Christian, core Christian principles that if we were living single, without having to learn how to deal with another person in a loving way, in a patient way, maybe we would never learn these principles. God allows us to be here, not just so that we can be happy, but so that we can learn to be holy, right? We are learning to be holy, we are growing in holiness in our relationships, and that is one of the major goals of marriage. Maybe it's not what my goal is. Maybe it's not what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking it's like, I'm so happy I got into a fight today so I can learn to be holy. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, I don't want to be in a fight. I'm thinking, I want to find peace. I'm thinking, I wish that we didn't have conflict. But as we are dealing with the real life conflicts of life, we are learning and changing and growing. And this is what God wants us to achieve. Okay? 5, Christ is the ultimate model, because Christ loved us and sacrificed for us without any guarantee of return. One of my favorite stories in the scripture is in the book of Hosea. Hosea was a prophet that God told to go and marry a harlot, so that she would cheat on him. She would be unfaithful to him after they are married. And then he used this as an example of how the people of Israel were being unfaithful to God. God was saying, just as this prophet's wife was unfaithful to him, like a very concrete example that they could understand and they could feel the pain of, God was saying, you as a people, because you are going after other gods and worshiping other gods, you are being unfaithful to me. I am your husband, you are my wife. Right? So he used this human example, right? And we see how God continues to forgive and to serve His bride, the church, us, throughout all of our life. And He calls us to learn to forgive one another in the same way that He forgives us. And He gives us the parable of the unforgiving servant, the servant who, though they were forgiven a huge amount of debt from the king, they were unwilling to forgive a very small amount of debt to their fellow servant. And they were condemned as a result. God is saying, how is it that you cannot forgive one another when I have already forgiven you a far, far, far greater debt? And this is all part of us learning from Him. He offered us salvation and forgiveness on the cross. He was forgiving His crucifiers even while He was on the cross. So any of us, despite and regardless of how difficult maybe we have conflicts or circumstances in our relationships, we cannot compare ourselves to God himself. He is the model of forgiveness. He is the model of love. And it is through our loving one another that we learn how to be like him, and we learn to have peace in our relationships. Finally, the reward is first spiritual and then relational. What does it mean? The reward we receive from God for being obedient to him and to being faithful to him and serving one another because it is the commandment of God, the reward comes from him. We have the reward of a clear conscience before God. We have the reward of inner peace because we know we are doing God's will. We have the reward of being aligned with God's will in everything that we do, right? This is a reward. And we have ultimately the ultimate and final reward, which is heaven, right? And God looks at us and says, you are faithful in your life. You are faithful in your relationships, whether it be in your marriage or your friendships, at your work, with your children. You are faithful. And for that reason, I will reward you. The fact that these same practices that God is teaching us, love and respect, is something that brings harmony in our relationships, this is great. And yes, this is what we want. But ultimately, the reward first is spiritual, and then the reward second is relational. The fact that we are going to achieve harmony, the fact that we are going to improve our relationships with one another, right? This is a fruit of the work that we are doing, but it is not actually the primary goal. The primary goal is to obey God's will and to trust that He's telling us how we should live, and then that will be the best outcome for us. Okay? That's all I have prepared. If anyone has any questions, you could ask. Also, I think you can submit questions here. If you want to submit questions here.
I have a question, Ollie.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of the first things you talked about, like you're saying the example about like a man like build something and then like criticize it. Somebody else, a different female, would criticize that man's work. Like, how do you approach? And I'm sure it's vice versa. Like, if you really don't like it, like you really don't want them to paint the whole house or whatever. Like, how do you approach it without being insincere or, like, I guess, overly critical?
So, I mean, I'm not saying that you flatter and like say things that aren't true. And I'm also not saying that you like are not honest and you just kind of pretend like you like everything that's done. You can be honest and you can be clear, but you can also be gentle, right? I think the key is being gentle and making him realize that the problem is not him. The problem is not him. Like, yeah, I didn't like this color, but the problem is not you. Like, I think you can do a good job, but the problem is not you. And if you think you can't do a good job, okay, like let's say, like for instance, I don't think I could paint a house. I don't think I would do a great job painting a house. So if I'm convinced that I'm doing a great job painting the house, right, maybe like my wife could come and could say, have you considered like maybe we could hire someone to paint the house? It'll make things so much easier for you. You don't have to spend all this time painting the house. And I know painting the house can be really hard. Say it in a way that's not like you are horrible at painting the house and there's no way you could ever paint the house and the house, we won't even sell the house after you paint it, So the tone and even though you might be communicating, like, I don't think that you're the right one to do this because this isn't your talent, but he can still pick up on the idea that just because you think this doesn't mean that it is undermining your general respect for me. Because, yeah, maybe this isn't my strength, but I do have other strengths. So always make me feel like I'm still in your eyes, like, good, even though maybe this one area is not. Okay.